I'm the Hooded Lid and welcome to my channel. Today is part 2 of some roses I think everybody should sniff. As I said in my first video, which wasn't terribly popular, and I was thinking of not even doing the second one, but I am for a reason. But as I said in that first video, you don't have to be a rose lover to love a couple of roses. And I have two here that are really, really worth loving for me personally, and one that was a little bit of a miss, but you might like it. So let's get into it. This has a story behind it, I may as well tell you. The other day, I was in the bathroom upstairs, and I have, something that's a shelving thing, like a bookshelf, but my makeup is in there. And I put a couple of boxes of perfume there just to help it look a little less utilitarian. And I'm sitting on the throne and I'm like, oh, I wonder if there's perfume in that box, because I had vaguely noticed I didn't have this perfume anymore. And I opened the box and lo and behold, it was there. This is by Hilde Soliani. Let me get my glasses because I don't want to pronounce it wrong. Hilde Soliani, and it's called Vecchi Rossetti. And this is gorgeous. I love this. Let me tell you a little bit about it. It came out in 2008. It is, they say it's floral, leather, woods, and tobacco. There's not much to say, and that's on the Hilde Soliani website. They also say it's a powdered, floral. My handwriting sometimes. Now, usually when someone says a rose scent is powdered, it means it smells like older makeup. And older makeup was usually rose and violets. And the truth is, I do get some violets. But there's nothing old-fashioned about this. This does not smell like an old-fashioned perfume. It is so unique. I have never smelled anything quite like this. This is what their website has to say about it. It evokes the smell of a dressing room in a theater. Accords of makeup and seasoned wood, talc powder, puffiness? Okay. Puffiness gives emotions and recalls paste lipstick and chypre. Obviously this is translated from Italian, so I think what they're trying to say is they wanted to get the smell of a dressing room in a theater. I don't get chypre out of this at all. There is, to me, at the open, a little bit of orange, and there's definitely some sweetness going on here. There is the powder, there is the wax, there is the tobacco right up front. I'm going to spray a little bit. I already sprayed on this arm, but I want some more. When I took this out the other day and sprayed it, I was also testing something else on the other arm, and I kept on wanting to go back to this one. This is so interesting. When it opens, it is big, but it's not a big scent. After a few minutes, it will calm down, and it doesn't take more than an hour or so to become a beautiful skin scent. But as a skin scent, it does linger for quite a long time. So right off the top, I'm getting a little bit of orange. That is kind of the Christmassy orange. So the woods are coming in at the same time as the orange is coming in. But it is undeniably a rose, but it doesn't scream rose like the next thing I'm going to tell you. It's really, I'm getting the rose and the violet at the same time. And it's just such an unusual scent in that I do get that waxiness, like the wax paste that you use to polish a floor is absolutely there. There is a resinous quality to it, absolutely. It is, I can see why they're saying it's a chypre, but it doesn't have, to me it's not quite there. But it is on the verge of being a rose chypre, honestly. And I never really thought about it until just now. I did see, of course, they were calling it a chypre. I'm like, no, it's not. But you know what? It's on the edge of it. If you like a rose chypre, this might be something to try out. But it is so beautifully unusual. The sweetness, the tobacco, and then later on I feel that, and they haven't said that it's in here, but I feel like there's lapilin in here. And I think that's why it is recalling a Chypre to me. You really can close your eyes and imagine what an old theater that maybe doesn't get cleaned too precisely often might smell like this. The tobacco might actually be more like cigar than cigarette, of course, and the floral seems to be weighted a little bit, evened out, smoothed over a little bit with a white floral, but I couldn't say specifically which white floral, but it's just such an unusual scent. I know I'm not doing much to describe it, and when you say powdery, a lot of people are like, click, no. The powderiness is really welcome, and it's not really powder, it's really rose and violet. With that paste wax and the cigars and the leather, it has slightly the nature of an old speakeasy. Maybe something from the 1920s. That's what it's reminding me of. It doesn't smell like a vintage perfume. It's not a perfume from the 1920s. It doesn't smell like a vintage perfume, but it takes me there. It does make me think of not a theater, because I have no reference for that really. Not that I have a reference for a speakeasy, but that I can imagine more in my head. Yeah, that's what I'm getting from it. So if that interests you, speakeasy or an older theater that's been around for 50 years and it's just accumulated over decades these scents of the roses that maybe ballet dancers receive at the end of the show, and the powder of their makeup, and the wax that is used on the wood floors of the stage, and the lights that are kind of heating everything up and making it bigger than it normally would be. That's what I'm getting from this. It's really it's not a journey, it's fairly linear, but it just really puts a story inside my head. And even if I didn't have that story, because I have an imagination clearly, it's such a pleasure to wear. It's such a pleasure to be around. This is my 3rd day in a row of wearing it, and I'm just loving it. And I'm so glad that I rediscovered this, and I'm putting this in the top of my rotation as Hilde Soliani, Vecchi Rossetti. Now the next perfume was a challenge for me, and it also has a little bit of a story. You know, sometimes when you find something you like, for me anyway, if I find something I like, I automatically look for other iterations of the same thing, because I'm thinking, okay, well, this is my wheelhouse. This is something I love. Saffron Troublante is one of my very favorite perfumes, and it is a rose perfume, but I don't think of it that way. But it is basically saffron, rose, and vanilla. It's spring, it's summer, it's a delight, and this year in the warm weather, that's the one I wore more than anything else that I own. And it really has a very special place in my heart. You know, last year I hardly wore it at all. This year it was nonstop. But several years ago when I first discovered that, I started looking around at other perfumes that had the same kinds of notes. I don't know why, because I love this so much, but I guess I thought maybe there's something even better out there. And through my research, I found something by Rosine. And this is Cashmere, Rose Cashmere. It was discontinued, and the only place that Rosine was available was at Barney's. I went a couple of times, they didn't have it, and then one time I happened to go there, and the sales rep for Rosine was there, and they allowed me to buy this tester. I was so delighted, and I guess I was convinced that I loved it, even though it was a snap decision. I usually like to get samples and test things for a couple of days. I didn't have that opportunity here, but it had all my boxes checked. And I was surprised to find that I didn't really love it. And so last night I sat down, and because I was having such a hard time describing what it was, I sat down and I wrote this kind of essay, which I'm not going to read to you word for word because I think that's a little strange. And me talking off the cuff of my head, I kind of like better than me reciting something, but I am going to reference what I was saying. And besides, my handwriting was so small, I can't read it. Okay, the name itself just evokes something exotic, and I picture the exotic spices of India. Kashmiri, why would I not think that I'm going to get some marigold in there, and I'm going to get a little bit of spice, and I'm going to get the saffron, the sweetness of the saffron. It also has coriander and bergamot and peony and 2 kinds of roses and myrrh and something called nagarmatha, vanilla, vetiver, sandalwood, benzoin, and ambergris. That's quite a lot going on. That's a big soup. And I really thought that I would get that spicy Indian rose saffron vanilla thing out of it. And yet it's all like a soup. It's not that I don't get the coriander. I do. It's just, it has an arid quality to it. It's not quite enough for me. I think marigold would have pleased me more. Where the saffron troublante for me is spring and summer, the rose Kashmiri is fall and winter. It's dark and brooding. The rose is persistent in its nature, and it's very undemanding. It opens large. There is silage or silage, but it will become a skin scent in about an hour or so. And I almost say thankfully. It's not that this is unpleasant, it's that it doesn't have a spine for me. It doesn't have a map I can follow or a story that it brings me, but I think mostly it doesn't have a spine. There's something very amorphous about it, but not in a pleasurable way. Sometimes like Chergui to me doesn't really have a spine. It's rather amorphous, but I love it. This one is just missing something. It has more of a classical structure, a classical feeling to it, but there are notes missing. I don't know what they are. I don't know what would do it for me, but this just misses the mark a little bit. I do think it's very pretty, and I think for some people this will hit the spot. It's just that I have some other things that I like better in the same category. I think one of the biggest problems for me with this perfume is I had expectations. And as in life, when you have expectations, you can be setting yourself up for disappointment. It's not like I just opened this, I had no idea where the notes were, and I could just decide, do I like it, do I not like it? I kind of like that, you know what I mean? And I guess that's really what it's all about. It is a beautiful fragrance, without a doubt. It's not that it's not beautiful, it's just that I was hoping for something better. I was hoping for a 10. I really, really was. And I think I got a 7. But as a 7, it might be something that you like, so I wanted to bring it to your attention. I think it's still available. I don't know where Rosine is anymore, but I did do a Google and I did find the Kashmiri was available in some, odd outlets, and it might be something for you to try. And finally, this is my favorite. This is another rose and saffron scent, and I think I've spoken about this in another video. I can't remember when, but I don't think this is a stranger to you, but I love it. It is my fall and winter saffron and rose, and it is something I love to wear during the holidays. I don't know why. It doesn't smell Christmassy. It is something I always wear on Christmas Eve wherever I may be, and it's just gorgeous. It is by Ormonde, and it is called Taif. Now, Ormonde has another version of Taif right now. I have not smelled it. I may have smelled it actually last week, 2 weeks ago at Scent Bar. Taif was created by Linda Pilkington, who's the owner of Ormonde, and Giza Schoen. It is pink pepper, saffron, and date. Saffron is sweet, actually. It's bitter to the taste, but it's sweet to the scent, as is date. So this is quite sweet in the opening, but the pink pepper is absolutely there and delightful and effervescent, I think. So they juxtapose each other so nicely that the sweetness is not overwhelming, but it's undeniable. Rose oil, freesia, orange flower, jasmine, broom, and amber. And I find that the orange flower and the jasmine kind of temper everything so it doesn't smell like a rose soliflor. This is a word I've had a problem with my entire life. Some words, don't we all have problems with some words? I know I do. But those two flowers kind of round everything out so it's not boom or rose scent. It just opens with that pink pepper and the rose so beautifully. Broom is something I'm not incredibly familiar with. It's not in a lot of my fragrances. It is in one of my fragrances, and that is Dune. I have bottles of Dune. I have 2 bottles of Dune that are from its original release, so it hasn't been changed, although it is a little old and the top is a little off. But I recognize the broom from the Dune. There is an arid quality to it, like a deserty quality to it. And gosh, it's so hard for me. It's almost like as if a sea has been on this land for millennia, right? And finally it has abated, and now there is just the sand left. But it still has the aridness of the sand that's now baked in the sun for some time, and still has that quality of the ocean. That's the best way I can describe it. That's what it is to me. And it's not overwhelming here, but I do recognize that quality that is also in Dune. But for me, it's the rose, it's the saffron, and towards the end of the story, the vanilla starts to come in and kind of takes over where the dates were. And the amber quality just makes this glow. It radiates. I picture this in my head as a pink rose, not incredibly pale, but not too vibrant. And in the center is the pinkness, and it radiates from there a golden color and then dissipates into a yellow color. And to me, that's the amber. It is such a beautiful and balanced perfume, and it makes a perfect bookend. If this is all I ever wanted to wear was a saffron rose, this would be fall winter, and the saffron troublant would be spring summer, because there's more of a cooling nature to that one. And this one, it misses it for me. But if you don't like this, you might like this. If this is too radiant and warming for you, you might like this, because it's a little cooler and it's a little darker and it's a little more brooding in its nature. So that's going to wrap it up for my series. This is 2 of 2 of some really interesting roses that you might want to smell. So we have the Vecchi Rossetti by Hilde Soliani. We have the Rose Cashmere by Rosine, and we have the Taif by Ormonde Jayne. They are all beautiful. My faves, these 2. I am so delighted that I found this. This is going to be like a day-to-day for me, at least for a little while. I mean, I am testing some other things for my next video, which is for spicy perfumes. Now that we had a couple of days that were really cold and I wanted some spice, and I pulled out some spicy things, and it's a good little mix. So that'll be my next one coming up. But right now the weather isn't as cold, and I'm going to do this one. It is so interesting. I want to thank you so much for being with me. I hope I might have turned you on to a couple of things that you haven't heard about, and I hope you're able to check them out. If you have tried any of these, have thoughts on them, I'd love to hear from you, because I never hear from anybody. I want to hear. Just say hi, or tell me you like this or you don't like this, or you totally disagree with me. It doesn't matter. I just want to hear. I'm going to thank you for spending some time with me, and yeah, have a great day.